Where's that music at? Welcome.
Yes, it is a catchy little number.
There it is. Welcome back. Oh, you want to?
How do you know for sure?
How do you know for sure? How do you really know, Tom?
For sure.
How do you really know for sure?
How do you know for sure? How do you ever really know?
Back again.
You're one of us.
Back again.
Welcome
Welcome
to the Outhouse podcast, everybody, where we talk shit
about shit.
about the shit. And tonight, on
Tonight.
the show,
One night only. We have the great P.R. Miller.
P.R. Miller right here. And
The
our
Grizzled
audience is the
Wizard.
camera up there. Everybody looks at the screen, but it's actually above the screen.
A voice
up
not
there
one
when
not.
you're talking to the people.
Yeah, I do it too. That is the main camera, so if you want to address the audience, that's the one to point to.
Okay, well, I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate the opportunity to bloviate more of my asinine.
Well, I am really excited because I had no idea which direction we'd end up going tonight. And I told Tom, I said, every time I talk with PR, it's scintillating. So we're going to have a good time tonight.
Yeah.
And it's a lot like whenever I've been listening to Manly P. Hall lectures. It's like sitting at the feet of a master, man. You've got, life experience on us. And you are a real wizard. That's going to be fun to get into. And we're going to go way back after you read your disclaimer
I was
thing.
getting ready to say. And don't forget, kids, that the views and opinions expressed by the individuals on the following program do not necessarily reflect those of the Outhouse podcast or its affiliates.
Or any other kind of reality.
There we go.
It's just jokes. Calm down.
And we were talking before we came on, and
We're going to get serious a little bit tonight with Mr. Miller here.
yeah, it's going to be really cool.
It's going to be a fun show.
Well, and I asked that question on my way out to have a quick cigarette before we got on the air. Are you a kid that had your own junkyard growing up? And that's a great jump off point.
Well, I didn't own a junkyard. My dad did.
Right.
It was my playground,
Right.
basically. And in fact, I grew up in a little town called Mars, which is in Pennsylvania, 20 miles north of Pittsburgh. And the town dump was our playground. So that in the summertime when there was no school, my two brothers and my two cousins, we'd go to the town dump and pick up pop bottles
What
to
fun.
cash in their deposits back in the day when there
Yep.
was a deposit on pop bottles.
I remember
right.
we did that when I was a
I
kid.
did.
And we would pick up
Me and my
scraps of
brother.
metal and wheel it home in a wheelbarrow. And all summer long, we would collect anything we could that we could sell.
Right.
And then when August rolled around, it was time to go to school. My dad would help us load all of the stuff we collected on one truck, drive it into Pittsburgh to Alpha Steel Company, and the money we got and split up, then my mother would take us shopping either at Goodwill or Salvation Army to buy our supposedly new clothes.
That's right.
And that's the only new stuff we ever got. But there was not, a whole lot of money. My dad had a regular job,
Right.
but the scrapyard was like a sideline.
How big was it?
Well, we have 7 acres. Wow. And his brother was in the automobile business, so they were constantly taking in used cars that weren't worth anything.
Right.
So back then you could get like a 1955 Dodge for a $5 bill
Wow.
and tow it home. Excuse me.
Wow.
And then put a match to it and burn it. And that would burn all the upholstery out. Excuse me. And all the insulation off the copper wires. And then the next day after the car cooled down, us kids would go in and strip all the wire and all the melted die cast they used to have hood ornaments and stuff.
Yeah.
And
People
they would
collect
all
those.
melt. So we collected all that stuff. And then my dad would spend the rest of the week with a cutting torch, cutting the car into, they cut the roof off, cut the doors off, cut it so that he could be able to load each piece onto his truck.
Wow.
And he did that for, I believe, up until about 1963, when he ended up buying a house in town for my mother. It was my mother's dream castle when she was a little girl. And
I don't hear ow. Sorry, guys.
she
Let me
come
go
home one
adjust
day
that.
and told my dad that my house is
Sorry.
for sale. Can we go look at it? I know we can't afford it, but can we just go look? I want to see inside of it.
That's right.
So they went and they looked at it, and my mother fell in love with the house. It was a big old yellow brick with a tower on it, and it was one of the bigger houses in Mars.
Nice.
And it had been built by a Methodist preacher who had retired, and his wife died, and he didn't want this big house anymore. So my dad did not necessarily want to move, but my mother. They were both high school dropouts in World War II, and they got married in 1945.
Real devotion.
Yes. And he devoted his whole life to making her happy. And he just was, his entire life was wrapped around her. And if she even hinted that she wants something, it would show up. So I think it was about 1955 or 56. I was in the third grade and I was homesick. She called the school to let them know I wouldn't be there, and she managed to get the principal, this elementary school principal, on the phone. And she told him I was sick. And he said, well, you just keep him there. We don't want him in this school because he's mentally retarded. And when my mother hung up the phone, I learned a new word. It starts with F. I had never heard that word before, especially from my mother.
The F-bomb.
She called him every name that, I didn't even know those words.
Now, if you want to drop the F-bomb, you can. I see you brought some quarters, and if
I'll
it slips
I'll
out, feel
try
free
to.
to.
Well, by the way,
drop them
kids,
in there,
look.
because
I try to behave.
We got a new quarter thing. It's the cuss bank. Check it out.
that's right. This is new since the last show, and we've. I believe you transferred the quarters in. It's pretty big. It's heavy.
It's heavy. That's why I'm struggling to get it over.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing a good job of filling it up.
It's getting there. For sure.
So anyway, she hung up the phone and she called him a fucking dago wop and a few other words.
Boom,
Well, he was a Catholic and he was a Democrat.
Wow.
And my mother was as strict a
Forget
Republican
about it.
as you could find back in the 50s. Eisenhower, you know.
You know what WAP means now, don't you?
Means you got a flat tire. Wop, wop,
Wapity
wop, wop.
wapity wap wap. No, it means.
So, anyhow,
them kids know what it means.
Due to the fact that Mars, Pennsylvania, and the surrounding area had an inordinately large number
heard him say it, guys.
Downs syndrome children,
Wow.
which was called mental retardation back then,
Right.
she knew I wasn't retarded.
Right.
But the only reason he said that is because ADHD had not been invented yet.
Ah.
And that was the whole thing, because I could never pay attention to anything. Because my
I was
mind,
the same way.
my mind is like, an explosion constantly.
Mine too. I don't know if it's a curse or a blessing.
Exactly.
For real.
It's
It's
both.
part of that creative spirit.
Right.
It's
man.
both, yes. So the thing from moving from the 7-acre junkyard to the house in Mars was in itself a very life-changing experience. Back in the 50s, my dad was able to get, after they got married, they were driving used automobiles. In 1951, he bought a new 51 Ford. And then in 53, he bought a 53 Ford. And in 55, he bought a 55 Ford station wagon. And then in 56, my mother didn't like the color of her green station wagon, so he bought her a two-tone blue 56 Ford station wagon. So we grew up with Fords and stuff, and then wrong about 1961 or so, he drove home from work, and he was driving a 1960 Cadillac Coupe. And my mother really went off on that because she didn't like the idea of being some pompous, arrogant, rich people. Very few people in Mars, Pennsylvania had Cadillacs.
Oh, man.
The family doctor and, those kinds of people.
Right.
That was it. So 3 days later, he went to work in his Cadillac and sold it to another guy who worked there. And apparently he made enough money that he came home the next day with a 61 Cadillac. Well, the family business of buying and selling automobiles is pretty much all over the place down there. So both of my uncles had not only car dealers, but they had scrap yards as well. So they would get these cheap ones and just burn them up and scrap them out. So that largely was, my childhood was all about recycling. So it wasn't my junkyard, it was my dad's, but it was my home.
Right. And like
And
you
what
said.
a cool backyard to have, man.
Right, man.
Well, when my dad died here about maybe
Got to
10
tinker with all
years
kinds of
ago,
stuff.
my goddaughter inherited the farm because she had, when she graduated from high school, he had met her, and she lived in North Canton, actually. And one day he had called me on the phone. He said he had a clean-out job and he needed some labor. He wanted me to bring my son and a couple of just kids that could do some work. So I took Mary and Alex and two other kids. And my dad was a workaholic. If he was on a job site, he had to outwork everybody. He didn't care who it was, he's going to outwork them. So I'm trying to keep up with everybody, and I keep noticing him standing over there watching things. And pretty soon he called me over and he said, "Who's that girl?" I told her who he was. And he said, "She is something like I ain't never seen. She's making 3 trips to every one of Alex's 2, and these other 2 guys are totally useless. I wish you wouldn't have brought them because they could barely make 1 trip to her 3. And it was a really filthy job. It was an old Italian stone carver's shop, and he had a lot of coal, and that's how they heated things, and so the whole shop was just coal dust.
Yeah, it'd be everywhere.
So he and Mary hit it off pretty well, and then when she graduated from college, or from high school, she had applied to the Slippery Rock University over in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, and she moved in to his house because my mom had died by then, and he had all that room, so he just moved in, and she took over the junkyard. So she ended up inheriting it, and she still is running it now.
Nice.
How many siblings did you say you had off the air when we were talking?
2 older brothers and a younger sister.
Okay.
But when the day that my mother heard that I was mentally retarded was a changing point in her life, because a lot of our family friends had children with Down syndrome. The reason for that is that Butler County, Pennsylvania has, according to the Center for Disease Control, the highest incidence of brain tumors and Down syndrome in the nation due to the fact that a chemical company in the next town 6 miles down the road,
Dumping in the river.
no, Calorie Chemical, every Friday night, they burnt everything.
Oh.
They pushed it over the
Filled
hill,
it to the
doused it
air.
with kerosene, and this
That was
chemical
rampant back in the day.
and this chemical plant was completely surrounded by the largest dairy farm in the county. Serviced every public school in the county.
Wow.
But they, who knew about it then? Because
Right.
everybody loved to watch the fire, because you
That's
burn all
right.
them chemicals, you get navy blue and
Oh, the
fire
pretty
engine red
flames.
and Kelly
Absolutely.
green. And
Look at those flames, right?
yeah, it was crazy. It was really crazy.
Now, I asked you off the air, too. Like, 1959 seemed like it was a big year for you. How old were you in 59?
12.
Yeah. That's a good year when you're a kid, man.
Well, plus I was into vehicles because when Dad would bring home a car that would run, that's how we learned to drive. We just have demolition derbies.
I was going to ask you, did you guys build any of those hot rods or anything?
No, we just wrecked them and burned
Didn't
them.
run no moonshine.
No, my mother was very anti-alcohol, anti-drugs. My great-grandmother purchased for me when I was born a lifetime membership in the WCTU. Do you know what that is?
No.
The Women's Christian Temperance Union.
Oh.
You remember Carrie
I do
Nation?
remember reading about that.
Yes. And they would go around with hatchets and break up bars and stuff for people. And
He wasn't having it, huh?
That
wasn't having it. No.
predated prohibition by
Right,
a couple years.
Yes. And we didn't,
The mob rules.
alcohol was not permitted in our house at all. Period.
That's a smart thing, really, though.
Were you like the black sheep as the artist?
Well, I got in a lot of little trouble.
He said I got in a lot of little trouble.
Yeah, because I was mouthy and I didn't like, I figured I was smarter than everybody else. And what the hell do old people, especially parents, what the hell do they know about anything,
Right, right.
Absolutely.
Tell me I can't do that. Watch me.
Watch
you don't think I
this.
can jump off the roof of this house? Watch me.
Hold my water.
Yeah.
Did you get good grades when you were in school?
No.
No?
I was a C student because I didn't like school.
I was the same way. Plus, the teachers didn't understand you couldn't go with the regular curriculum. You had to be explained to shit
And
one-on-one.
especially if you got ADHD.
I'm hands-on, man. You got to show me.
Teachers are looking at you like you're a piece of.
Right.
So
Wow.
Yeah, I got that same shit, man. I know exactly the path you walk there, boy.
my mother's big dream, because I was back to this being retarded thing, because of the fact we had so many friends that had Down syndrome children. My mother got together with her friends and started one of the first schools in the state of Pennsylvania for mentally retarded children
Wow.
in the church that we went to, the Presbyterian church. And it was the first thing they are teaching these kids is how to feed themselves and toilet training. Because most of these kids, back
The
then,
basics, how
back
to
in the
survive.
50s, if you had a child that was Down syndrome, the people in the hospital said, just take him up to this institution and drop him off and forget he's alive.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy
That was
as
a
hell.
real common
Yeah.
sentiment.
Exactly. And my mother would have no part of that. So they started this school and had like 8 or 10 kids in it. Excuse me. And it started out really rough because the minister at the church didn't want those kind of people in the church. And one day, we also happened to be the janitors of the church as well. And that was a job that was inherited from her grandparents back in the 50s. So every Wednesday we were at prayer meeting. Every Saturday was all day in church cleaning. We had to be the first ones there on Sunday morning and the last ones to leave Sunday in the afternoon to lock up. So her and the minister got into it, and he pretty much told her that the church was no longer open for this. And she gaily informed the minister that her great-great-grandparents had donated the land that church was built on, and if he didn't like it, he could damn well go find himself another church.
Mm-hmm.
And within a year, he was gone.
Wow.
Crazy.
Well, my mother, she was a very, very strong woman.
It sounds that way.
But as the school progressed, it started picking up a little publicity, and somebody in Harrisburg, which is the capital of Pennsylvania, heard about it, and they come in and they got a court order to shut her down because she was not qualified to be a teacher.
Wow.
She didn't have a high school diploma.
That's crazy as hell.
So that forced her back in, and she went back to school and got her GED, and she went to college at Slippery Rock and got her bachelor's degree in education, and she went on to get a master's degree. And she ended up as a elementary school teacher in a town near Mars, and she was just an incredible force to be dealt with.
Drive.
She also happened to be very anti-union.
Not a popular review.
No, you don't do unions, but most of the teachers in the school belong to the
they
teachers'
absolutely
union.
do, right.
And they decided one day they're going to go on strike. This, I think it was like sometime in 78 or 79. And my mother made the announcement, you people will not keep me away from my children. And if you try to block me from getting into the parking lot, I will run you over.
Huh.
And at the time, my father had just purchased for her a 1979 Lincoln Continental, one of the biggies. So he was,
Land yacht.
yeah, exactly. And so he related to me later on. He said, I knew there was going to be trouble. And by this time, he was also a constable in town, too. He would arrest drunks and stuff. He said he decided he was going to follow her to the school to make sure that there was no trouble. So he told me, he said, as soon as she started getting close to the parking lot, that picket line parted like the Red Sea. You know? And she didn't put up with shit from anybody.
Now, you were 12
12
in 59?
and 59.
When did you really start to emerge as an artist? Were you drawing a lot back then, or sculpting?
No, I
or
still don't
anything
draw.
like
I
that
don't
at
draw
all?
anything. I can't draw. I mean, I suppose I could if I tried,
You can
but
tell he done working with some metals and shit. That one finger looked like the first toe on a snapping turtle, boy.
yeah, this
That bad boy's
in fact,
tore.
this finger, see how smashed it is?
Yeah.
It's the reason that I am not a concert pianist, because that's what my mother wanted me to be. At 6 years old, I started playing the piano, taking classical piano lessons from the church organist. And so when I was 13, we were at the dump one day, and we were playing a game called Smash the Bottle.
Oh, boy.
And we would put all these glass bottles that we couldn't use on a big rock pile and just throw rocks at them. And there was this one bottle. It was a green Reamer's Blend lemon bottle. It wouldn't break, and it had been hit 3 or 4 times. So I went down,
Thick boys.
and I went down to pick it up, and I picked it up just like this, as my brother let loose point blank a big rock, and it just went kerspooey. And of
Boy,
course,
it hurt like a sumbitch,
oh
didn't it?
my! And we're like a quarter of a mile away from home,
Ooh.
and there ain't no adults
Bleeding
anywhere.
like a sun-stuck pig, too, boy.
So my older brother walked me home. I'm crying the whole time, bleeding the whole time.
Freaking out, right?
Get home. My mother is freaking out because her dreams of a son being
A musician.
a musician has been eliminated. She called my dad. He come home from work. They put me in the car, and he took off. I didn't know he could drive that fast. And we got to the family doctor wasn't in, so we had to go to this other place, and the guy wanted to amputate it. And my mother went ape shit. She said, "You are not going to cut his finger off. You're going to fix it." Well, the guy said he couldn't do it. So they gave her a whole bunch of, I don't know what it was, but it was like almost knockout juices. And the whole night I'm in bed, my mother's standing beside me the whole night. And I'm, periodically I get the pain starts and she give me another pill.
Get another one of them there pills.
First thing in the morning, they stuffed me in the car. I went to the family doctor. He took one look at it. He picked up the phone. He called his wife, who was a nurse. They lived next door to the office. He said, "Come on over. We got a quickie here." They set up a card table in the middle of his office. He's there. I'm here. The nurse is there, and my mom's here. And he put it back together.
Wow.
Yeah, my brother, he's a carpenter. He's got part of his thumb missing.
Yeah.
Little tip
But
here and there.
I can't play piano
It's
because
crazy.
you play with your fingertips.
Yeah, it hurt like hell.
And it
huh?
hurts to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the fingernails all screwed up. So that kind of ended my
That sucks.
pianist, thing. And to sublimate my mother's desires for musicianship, I learned how to play the tuba. And I was in the school band and the marching band with a tuba.
There you go.
Nice. I love the sound of the tuba.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that kid on YouTube? He follows his mom around with it.
Yeah.
Making all kinds of.
Yeah, I think I
everything
did
she
see that
does, she's got
recently,
it following around with that. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Well, I'll
So-
tell you, a junkyard was a fascinating thing when we were kids.
Oh,
and
man, I
stumbled
loved
upon
it,
them in the
man.
strip mines. And I tell you, we did some daredevil stuff when we got in those places.
My,
Southern
my Uncle Jerry was a junk man, and he had a bunch of old cars always laying around. He lived out in Navarre, man. It was kind of the same deal. I mean,
Yep.
it wasn't quite like a big junkyard, but there was always like 5,
Fun.
6,
Instant
8 cars
fun.
laying around.
Well, to
Instant
me,
fun.
it was more a question of money, because if you're able to scrap stuff out.
Absolutely.
When I graduated from the University of Akron in 1970, I had spent 5 years to get a BS in education so I could become an art teacher. And I finished my student teaching, and I said, I will never, ever do this. I was completely burnt out about our whole education system
Wow.
because it has declined so precipitously that we are now, this year, we are ranked 27th in our educational level
terrible.
of citizens.
Wow.
Because it is, it wasn't too long ago they cut out cursive writing.
Right.
Now, how in the hell are you going to read the Constitution of the
Absolutely.
United States
Think about
if you
that one,
can't
kid.
read cursive? So
Any
now
of that,
there's-
not under the Constitution, but any of them old the Bill of Rights, any of it.
All of it, exactly. But the schools don't teach civics anymore. They don't teach critical thinking.
You get rid of your history, then you don't know nothing.
Well, the reason for that is very simple. It's about who runs America. And who runs America is not who you think it is. It's not the president and the Congress. It's the people the rich people,
The 1%.
who own all the land, who own all the media, who own the series of industries that provide jobs. And they don't want people that can think. They want people who can stand in front of a machine all day and do what they're told without complaining or anything of the sort.
And it's strange because now everything's going AI and those people aren't needed anymore, they're saying. So what are the people supposed to
And
do?
it's going to get worse and worse and worse. The trend was set in motion by, in my opinion, and this is an opinion,
People management.
by the deliberate machinations of the Republican Party who want to stay in power. That's what it's all about. It really came to a head with Nixon, and it's just declined. Our education system is turning out a bunch of damned idiots. Look at what's going on in America today.
Knowledge isn't prized like it once was.
Look at the guy who is the Republican presumed nominee coming up. I mean, this is going to piss off a lot of people to say this, but this guy is an absolute douche nozzle. I mean, really, he can't speak complete sentences. He reads at a third grade level, if he can read at all. He can't even spell hamburger. He can't spell coffee. And he's a money worshiper who has never worked a day in his life. He was handed $400 million by his father, and he blew it. How do you bankrupt a casino? Can you explain that to me?
That's a good one. I don't know. Casinos are a mystery to me.
Almost everything that guy touches dies.
It seems like casinos just funnel the money away. And where it goes, I have no clue.
Well, it
I
goes
stay
to
out.
people like Steve Wynn and the people who own the casinos And they turn around and they buy all the land they can so that they can control
Well, and
food production.
like you said with the president, I think there's people behind him too. You know, that are,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean, that are like, well, maybe we should do this instead.
So what's going on now? I don't know. This dude that's in right now, I particularly don't like going to the gas station or the grocery store.
Yeah, but the president and the Congress do not control the prices. The people who control those are the CEOs of Exxon and the oil companies. It's all about money and power. And the rich people want more money and they want more power.
And money loves money, and when money doesn't have money, money loves power.
That's it. That's exactly it.
And absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
And until the love of power is overcome by the power of love,
There you go.
we will not know peace nor tranquility of any kind. Because all these rich people want it all for themselves.
Although, and I gotta say, I'd rather have a pompous ass dude that's making everything go broke than some dude sniffing my daughter.
You know, I just
Fuck that. That dude's a sick bastard. The president
you
of the
know,
United States right now is a
I saw
sick bastard.
I saw some of those videos too. And,
Man,
and,
if
you know,
the way he touches women and kids, I'd have done strung his ass up, period.
Really? So I better not stroke your thigh here. is
I'm
what you're
not.
telling me, huh?
No, I'm not a kid.
I am.
As far as
I hope I never have to grow
I'm not
up.
no little 6-year-old kid trying to get away from the dude because he's sniffing all up on him and shit. Like, that's some sick shit right there,
there is
bro.
a lot of really hardcore, I want to call it what it is.
Besides
It's
whatever.
propaganda.
And just like
From
Dave
both-
said
from-
today, it's besides the
sides.
politics, put the politics beside. It's sad what they're doing to this dude. He can't even walk. He falls down. He don't know where he's at. He can't talk.
Well, and it
They
goes
shouldn't
back
even
to
be
what-
putting that old dude through that. That's somebody's grandpa, dude. He's
It goes
out
back
there
to what
floating
we
around.
originally started with, and that's that there are powers that be behind the president.
Oh,
it
there
seems.
is. Like he
Because
said,
there
they're
was
not
a video,
running it, but
there was a video that came out in those conspiracy circles, and it was a really powerful tool to show Reagan doing the stock exchange opening.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, that fella goes, "Let's wrap it up."
right.
Who tells the president, "Let's wrap it up"?
Right. Think about
His
it.
boss.
Exactly.
And that guy was some kind of a money guy. You
Well,
know,
I
I
always
don't know
say,
who it was, but I would
you
say
know,
that he had more power if he's telling the president.
left
"Let's wrap
wing
it
or
up."
right wing, it's the same bird. I don't trust neither one of
Well,
them.
and that's the thing. At the end of the day, they both
They're,
make up
they're
the
all
same
assholes.
bird, right?
They're out to get
That
us.
is the nature of politics.
And it is. You can go into it with great intentions, but you are going to find out how things really are running once you get in there, and it's not how you pictured it.
Right.
Nope.
And you're going to adjust your mode of thinking once you get in there.
You have to.
You know, you will. You have to
Right.
go with the flow. It's
That's
not really
why-
about change.
that's why a lot
That's
of-
why nothing gets
A
done.
lot of these people that get elected and they don't have any money, but 5 years later they're
Exactly.
millionaires.
Yeah, there's money involved, you know, in those positions. You know, that's
Well,
everybody
that's
can
because
see
you got
that,
all them people paying them.
right? Well, when did you go to college? Because the '60s were pretty crazy, and you lived through all of that. Were you in
Well-
college during all that? Like what happened at Kent State and all that? Were you
Well-
graduated at that time?
I graduated from Mars High School in 1965, and because my mother wanted one of her children to graduate from college because of her initial lack of education,
Right.
she wanted one of her kids to have a college degree.
Right.
So we had, we were always saving our nickels and dimes and stuff with the understanding within the family that each child has to pay their own first year. The parents will pay the second year, and we'll figure it out when the third and fourth year comes.
There you go.
So my oldest brother graduated in '63, and he took off for college in North Carolina and lasted about a year and a half and come home from Christmas and got his girlfriend pregnant and That was the end of his college career, because back then,
Yeah, you
if
take
you got
care
a
of your
girl
kid.
pregnant, you got married,
Right,
that
sure.
was it.
Did the right thing.
So then it fell to me. My other brother had no desire to go to college at all. He just didn't want nothing to do with it. And so I managed to apply to one college in Salem, West Virginia, and surprisingly, they accepted my application. So Mama is a happy
It's
camper.
got to feel good.
Oh, yeah.
So the first year there is, because it is such a backward town and it's West Virginia, there is no such thing as entertainment. There's a thing called alcohol, and that's when I discovered beer. Now, of course, we're talking about Stroh's.
My uncle,
So you
boy,
know
he was a big Stroh
We're talking
boy.
the good shit.
Yeah, 3.2 alcohol. You know, what the hell can you
That's
do that?
hilarious.
So I learned to drink early on. But then at second semester, I didn't even bother buying books because I was so bored, and I still come out with a C average
Wow.
throughout the whole thing. So one day I'm in the administration building and I'm reading this bulletin board, and there's this little flyer from the University of Oslo in Norway advertising summer school. And as I'm reading it, the president of the college walked up behind me, who he had no idea who I was, and I had no idea who he was. He said, "Are you interested in that?" I said, "Yeah, it'd be nice if I could." He said, "Well, you apply to it, and I'll give you a recommendation. We'll get you in."
Nice.
So I put in my application, and I got back, and early in June, I took off for Norway for 3 months.
How was it? How'd you like it?
Norway. Always
Well,
want to go check out Norway.
I learned a lot of things. Number one, that it reinforced my attitude about the American education system, because over in particularly Scandinavia, they value intelligence.
Yes, they do. I was friends with the exchange student my senior year who was from Norway. And
So
yes, they do.
they also are a very freewheeling kind of people. It's where I also discovered naked women, because the city of Oslo was the scene of the 1960 Summer Olympics. So they had this really, really large Olympic swimming pool. And over there, you don't have private locker rooms. You go there, you take your clothes off, you put your bathing suit on, and you go.
Jump in.
So one day I'm walking down there and walking along the woods, and I see these two girls in the woods taking off all their clothes. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Said, Lordy.
Yeah, I like this idea. This is working out pretty good.
Hey, girl, I got a 6-pack and 2 joints. Come on now.
So I watched them. They put their bathing suits on, and then they went into the pool area. So I walked into the pool area. Everybody else is just doing it right there. They're not even going into the woods to do it.
Yeah.
They're just doing it right in front of everybody.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to Europe.
Welcome to Europe. Exactly. So that whole experience changed my attitude about education. And I wrote a letter to my mother telling her I didn't want to go back to Salem to call the school and get transcripts, and I wanted to transfer to somewhere that was within 100 miles of Mars, so I could still hitchhike home on the weekends. So it came down to either Kent State or Akron U. So I ended up at Akron U, and then in 1968, I was beginning Spanish, and the Spanish professor and his assistant sponsored summer school at the University of Guadalajara in Mexico. So off I went to Mexico.
The international man of mystery, P.R. Miller.
Well, here again, when you're exposed to the way different cultures,
Absolutely.
the way they think and the way their whole thing is set up, you can learn a lot.
Absolutely.
And in Mexico, I would get out of school in the morning and ride the bus down to the marketplace, and they have these huge like the West Side Market in Cleveland times 10.
Right.
And you can spend all day in there. You can get yourself, there's people that make shoes. You can order custom shoes.
Zapatos.
Yeah. And all kinds of food of every sort and clothes and all sorts of things. So I got back from Mexico and then continued to drink because you drink a lot in Mexico too.
How was Mexico?
Oh, what?
How was Mexico?
I liked it.
I heard once you get out of the border towns, it's beautiful. But boy, right there by that border town, you don't want to fuck around.
That's exactly true. You don't. The border towns are not great. But Guadalajara is. The Sinaloa cartel is now taking over Guadalajara, but back when I was there, that was not so. So what I learned was that if you have a friend in Mexico, it's like having 10 friends in America. Because if a Mexican likes you, he'll say, mi casa, tu casa. My house is your house.
Right.
Come on in whenever you want. Don't bother knocking, just come on in. So
Kind of how you got it around here. Whenever we're doing our thing.
That Mexican girl up at the restaurant asked me what, and that was one of another words. She put me on the spot. What Mexican words you know? I'm like, taco and burrito.
He's flirting with this girl bad.
So then I went back to Akron U and got a little bit more serious about my academics, but still drinking pretty heavily because by now I'm in a fraternity, and the fraternity that I was in was considered at that time the brain trust of Akron U. Back in the 60s, there was a television program called the GE College Bowl, sponsored by General Electric, and there would be 4 people on the team and 4 backups.
Like Academic Challenge.
They got the what?
There used to be a show called Academic Challenge.
Yeah, but that wasn't, no, the college, it was the same thing probably.
Kind of like the same kind of structure.
Yeah, and all 4 of the regulars were from my fraternity, and 3 of the 4 backups were from my fraternity. And after I joined, the chapter average went down a full point because of I just didn't, I was not an outstanding scholar. And then things changed a little bit. I started dating a woman who was exceptionally beautiful, very intelligent, and very aggressive. And we were dating, and I mean, it was nothing really what you would call sexual. It was still, kissy face, huggy bear stuff, but there wasn't any get naked and do it stuff. But she was really big on smoking marijuana, the weed with its roots in hell.
Right.
And so she's trying to convince me to smoke this stuff. But I knew better because I knew damn well that if I smoked that stuff,
You're going to go crazy.
my testicles would fall off and I would become a mass murderer immediately.
Right.
That's what happened to me. I smoked the shit and killed all kinds of people.
Yeah, so one day I'm down
Went
there.
mad.
She's trying to convince me to do it again, and I'm no. I got better sense than that. So she said, "I'll be right back." And she walked out of the room. And then about 5 minutes later, she walked back into the room. She's totally naked, and she's got a doobie. And it was a fatty.
A true muse.
It just wasn't no little slim torpedo. It was a fatty. And she said, "What's your pleasure, me or this?" And I said, "I'll take you." And she said, "Not until you do this first."
Oh, pure pressure at its finest.
And
Yeah, you can't. You're like,
What do you say to that?
He said,
how do you resist?
Fired
how do
up.
you resist
He
that?
said, fired up.
So I sat there, and she watched me smoke the whole thing.
Oh boy.
Now, this is the first time I had ever done this, you understand?
Woo!
And I could feel things going on in my head.
Walking on sunshine.
Yeah, right.
Whoa.
Something like that, yes.
That first time is very intense.
Yes. So that week, I quit drinking alcohol. Totally, just cold turkeyed it.
Hold it.
And I quit smoking cigarettes too,
Nice.
and started smoking dope all the time.
Right. Right.
And I got to be real, if you want to call it addicted, fine, I like that. But it occurred to me, intellectually speaking, that the use of marijuana is very much like a lubricant of the synapse. The synapse are the cells in your brain that transfer all those electrical
Keep
stuff.
it from misfiring.
Yeah, well, they're no longer misfiring. Now they're firing the way they're supposed to.
Right.
Because they got some good, 10W30 in there now.
Mm-hmm.
So that got me started on that, and I stuck with that until about 3 or 4 years ago when I started getting stomach problems and would be not able to keep food down very much.
Wow.
And it would get worse and worse, but then you smoke a doobie to get rid of the nausea, and everything's cool.
Right.
So one day I'm doing that. I'm down at where I live now, down in Loudonville, and
I thought he was about to drop an F-bomb. He's reaching for the quarters. Go ahead, sorry.
I feel one coming on, and I said, man, this ain't going to be a good one. So I got my truck and I drove to Akron. Had to stop 3 or 4 times along the road to barf. But I checked myself into the General Hospital in Cuyahoga Falls, which I had never been to before. Because I've been in a lot of hospitals over the years with all my surgeries that I've had,
Right.
dozens of surgeries. So I got into the room, and the doctor is interviewing me, and do you drink alcohol? No, I gave that up in 1970. Do you smoke? And I said, well, I don't smoke cigarettes, but I do smoke marijuana. He said, well, when did you start? I said, well, 1970. And he said, how much do you smoke? I said, not much, 6 or 8 doobies a day. And,
Yep.
well,
I'm agreeing there. Oh, yeah. I feel it.
if you're
a good number.
smoking,
That's
if
about
you're smoking
right.
Marlboros,
Right.
how many are you smoking?
I mean, I'm with you on that.
One an hour.
I
So
promise you.
anyway, the next morning he comes into the hospital room and he said, Mr. Miller, I am a resident here and we are not allowed to make diagnoses. However, last night I was talking to another resident here who just got here from California, and we think that there's a possibility that you have cannabinoid hyperemesis. I said, oh yeah, what, is my dick gonna fall off?
Ah, right. All over again.
Well, that's
right.
what I'm figuring,
What
It's
the
a
f-
Right.
whatever. And he said, no. He said, you have been smoking so much for so long that your entire body is saturated with cannabinoids.
Wow.
And what is
probably what my
happening
problem
is that it is causing, the reason you're smoking it, it's causing those things to happen rather than preventing them.
Wow.
And so that was the end of my smoking marijuana.
Wow.
Interesting.
Well, there's a lot of things that goes on.
You're
in
not
my
supposed
life.
to overindulge in anything, I guess, right?
Sex, drugs, rock and roll,
Yeah.
That's right.
politics,
Living
or
like a
religion.
rock star.
What kind of music were you into back in the 60s while they were happening?
Well, my primary people were Peter Pooh and Magpie and the Kingston Trio, and I never really got into Elvis, and I really didn't care for the Beatles, but so rock and roll was not my forte.
Right.
And because I had exposure to classical music, I learned how to listen to classical music. Contemporary music, particularly what you hear on the regular FM station nowadays,
Right.
is specifically designed for people with very short attention spans.
Sure.
Absolutely.
2 to 3 minutes.
3
and that's
minutes
it.
is up. Yeah.
Set
that's
to
it.
that 72 beats per minute.
Yes.
By a human heartbeat, you know?
Yes. So if you're into classical, like Tchaikovsky's piano stuff or Rimsky-Korsakov or
Wagner.
Wagnerian stuff is really dark,
Yeah.
but it's still good.
I love it.
Mussorgsky's stuff is really good. Rimsky-Korsakov, Rachmaninoff. Some of the Russian composers back in the 1800s come up with some really good stuff.
Yes.
And the thing is, if you get attuned into listening just for
Absolutely.
the sake of listening,
Yes.
particularly the piano. The reason I like the piano is because you can do 10
Notes.
at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that is more complicated than that would be a pipe organ. Because with a pipe organ, you can hit 14 at once.
Huh.
Now, how do you do 14?
That's a good question.
Well, you got 10. And I learned this in a Tuesday Musical Club concert at one of the churches in Akron. They imported this guy who's a world-class organist. And he got up out of the crowd. The first thing he did was he took off his shoes. There were so many people there that they had opened the balcony. So I'm directly above the organist looking down at him. And he is able to use both feet, and he can use his toes and his heels
Huh.
because he arches his feet. So he can hit 14 at once.
Wow.
And this guy is into a piece, and he's not using sheet music. He's doing it all from memory.
Right.
And he's going, and if you ever listened closely to pipe organ music, you can get lost in that.
Absolutely.
Like deeply.
Mm-hmm.
So he's playing it, and then all of a sudden he starts, he's playing the different ranks, and his hands are shooting out. He's pulling all the stops out. And all of a sudden he just raised his hands and stopped playing. But one note kept playing. So there was something. He's listening to all this stuff. He can hear this one note through all this other stuff.
Right.
And he just raised his hands. He turned around and looked, and the lady who was the organist at the church got up out of her front row seat, ran up, turned the organ off, turned it back on, and the guy started right up where
Had
he
a
left
ghost
off.
note going, huh?
Wow.
And the other organ,
Stuck
the
note.
regular.
Yep.
That's crazy.
And
He was
just-
like, oh
and when
my
he
God.
started back up
Freaked
exactly
him
where
out.
he left off, like he'd never missed a beat.
Now we're coming up. It's
So the big question is when did you start growing that magnificent beard?
I quit shaving in 1975 when I got out of the military.
Nice. And it was still probably black or brown
You
then? Or
just-
did you already...
that was my next question. Did you do any military time?
I did. It was, I don't think it's a good idea to get into that tonight because,
Okay.
well, I did my basic training at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Fort Campbell, Kentucky is the home of the 101st Airborne Rangers, otherwise known as the Screaming Eagles.
Ah.
Now, you got to question the mentality of people who get up in a perfectly good airplane and jump out with about a couple of yards of nylon.
Right.
First of all, if man was meant to fly, he'd have been given wings. So why the hell would you want to get in an airplane to begin with? Because it's just going to crash. And then, if you get up in an airplane and jump out of it,
I get very anxious when I fly. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow. I like it.
I mean, I can endure it.
My
I
daughter
guess is
just
the way
went
of
to
putting
Florida
it, but I
today.
don't enjoy it.
well, we flew to Mexico, and I flew back from Europe. On the way over to Europe, I took a boat. That was a real cool experience too.
How are your sea
I
legs?
couldn't do a boat. Nah.
How are your
I'm
sea
good,
legs?
I'm
Did
good,
you
I'm
get
good, I'm
seasick?
good, I'm good.
Well, no, I never got seasick. I met a young lady whose father and mother, her father was a president of a college up in Boston somewhere, and we kind of had a sort of a shipboard romance.
Nice.
But no, there wasn't no sex or nothing because there was no place to do that. But when I finished in Oslo, we had kept in touch by writing letters. And her family was originally from Copenhagen. So I went down to Copenhagen, and her parents took me out to a very nice dinner at a very high-class restaurant in Copenhagen.
Nice.
So more of that European, hospitality stuff.
Now, you go from junkman to artist. When did you start with the art?
Well, when I gave up, after I graduated from college and decided not to be a teacher, I got a suit and tie job in a small loan company.
Oh, that had to be very extremely fulfilling.
Well, it wasn't because I was the repo man,
Oh,
and I was good at it,
right? That's got to be a
But-
tough spot.
but it was still not. I remember vividly one day going into the office, and the boss put a file on my desk, and he said, "This guy hasn't made a payment in 3 months. He's got a 66 Thunderbird. Don't come back into the office until you have that Thunderbird." So I picked up the file and I looked at it, and this is not going to be an easy job. So I started tracing it. You know, I went to where he used to work and finally found somebody that said, "Yeah, I know the guy. He quit about 2 months ago and moved over to the west side of Cleveland." So he told me where he thought the guy worked. So I went to that place, and sure enough, there's the 66 Thunderbird sitting there. So I parked outside, and when quitting time came, I followed the 66 Thunderbird back into this residential place where he pulls off the street and into this rickety old wooden garage. He gets out, he closes the door, he puts a padlock on the door, and he walks up the street 2 houses and goes in that house. So I knew where the car was and I knew where he was. So the next day while he's at work, I go visit the garage and I take the screws that hold the hasp in, and they're, you know, they're usually they're an inch long or something. I took the inch long screws out and put in 1/4 inch screws.
So you just
So when the guy came home the next night, I had my wingman with me driving my car
right.
up there, and I said, "Okay, we're going to park here. When you see me moving, you just follow me quickly."
Right.
So I had made sure that the window was unlocked. So I pulled the window up, got in, hot wired the car, put it in reverse, and as soon as I hit the doors, they just busted open.
Right.
But it was a loud crash too.
Oh yeah.
And so I backed out in the street and took off. And as I'm going past his house,
Oh yeah. Lighten it up.
I'm like, holy shit.
Wow.
So I got back to Akron. I put the car in my garage, put my car in front of it so it couldn't be moved. Went into work the next day, and I handed handed the file to the boss. I said, "Here's your car. Come and get it."
Nice. That's heavy, man. That's a tough job.
2
That's-
weeks later, somebody told me that one of the people who had owned that particular loan company was none other than Danny Green. Name doesn't ring a bell? Danny Green and Alex Shondor Burns.
No.
Danny Green was Kill the Irishman, the movie Kill the Irishman.
Oh really?
Irish Mafia.
Oh wow.
Shondor Burns
Looky
was
there,
Jewish
Mike.
Mafia.
Wow.
So somebody blew up Shondor Burn, and then a couple of years later, I believe it was in '67, Mr. Green came out of his dentist's office, got in his green '67 Cadillac and hit it, and it just blew it all to hell. Apparently, I'm told they made a movie out of it called
Yes.
Kill the Irishman.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a movie called that. Yeah.
Pull that
So,
a little bit. Your book's just
I,
holding. You
I
gonna
decided
make
I didn't want to work for people like that
Right.
because, you know, how do I know that that loan for the Thunderbird wasn't approved by Danny Green or one of his people? And I'm the guy that repoed it.
Right. Yeah. You don't want that.
So then I went to work. I left that company and I went to work for a mortgage company, a suit and tie, generating federal FHA and Veterans Administration loans. I didn't particularly care for that. And then I saw an ad in the paper for Hall of Iron and Steel was looking for some yard people. It's a junkyard in Akron.
There you go.
So I walked in.
It's in the
and
blood.
Right sound then.
I walked in to interview, and the guy I interviewed with was starched white shirt and driving an Oldsmobile 98, which back then was like a junior-sized Cadillac.
Right.
And he was all fired up because I had all this experience with the torch. And okay, fine. So he hired me and put me out in the yard for a while. And then as he watched what I was doing, and I'm not sitting around, I'm doing the work that I'm supposed to do, because that's what my dad taught me to do.
Right.
So one day he said, okay, I'm going to look at this job and negotiate. I want you to come with me, because if I get the job, I want you to run it as the foreman. So we go down to the BF. This was the time when the rubber shops were closing down, and they're gutting all the plants.
Right.
So this was at BF Goodrich. He went in for an hour. He's talking to the guy who bought the building and the guy who works for him. And they had already written a contract out and everything else. And Steve was looking at the contract, and he said, no, I want no part of this. And he slammed the contract down, and we walked out. And I got up to the car and said, what's the matter? What happened? He said, well, if you think you can do it, you go ahead and do it. So the next day I went in, I talked to the guy who owned the place, and told him I'd be delighted to do it at his rate. And it took me a year and a half to gut the building.
Wow.
Building it's right at the corner of Cedar and Main. And I ended up having like 40 employees.
Wow.
And it was one of the most dangerous jobs I've ever had. Because you're dropping pipes from the ceiling.
Dropping plates.
Wow.
With a torch.
Right.
And that pipe drops.
Hell yeah.
Heights. Ugh.
Yeah, I rigged. I used to set up, bands that come in at Blossom and whatever, and up in the ceiling. Same thing. You drop something, you're hurting somebody.
Are we at halftime?
Where you are? I was gonna say, if you can hang out just a minute while I set this halftime theme up and whatnot, because
And then
we
we'll
don't
take
have
our
a
little
crew
break.
member, and we'll
Right.
do the thing.
Yeah,
you
we
guys
were-
hang out for a minute.
Larry, are you
We're
in the
gonna do that
chat
little
room?
thing. I'm gonna hook the camera up to Al so he can do his little thing.
And
speed
we're
it
going to
up a
wander
little
away
bit.
for a few minutes.
I'll be-
Yeah. About 3 minutes.
We're all on back.
Okay.
We always say
Sounds
3
like a
minutes.
plan to me. It still sounds like a plan.
Yeah, that computer, I'm picking you all up on my mic, dropping them F-bombs. I'm going to throw all them quarters in there. So what? We could just keep talking? Or did you power down? Okay, well, you could switch out. We could switch out the cameras because it's going to have Alex for that couple minutes, and we can get out of your way and
Well,
make it smooth.
I could tell you about little Johnny. You want to hear about little Johnny?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Then we're not rushing time.
Okay, so here's little Johnny. He's in bed. He can't sleep. The monster's under his bed, and you know how it is when you're a little kid and you know that the monsters are going to eat you.
That's right. It's going to grab your feet.
So little Johnny, he's thinking, how is he going to do this? And he's thinking, well, I'll just go over across the hall and jump in bed with Mom and Dad. So he gets out of bed and he goes across the hall. He opens the door, and there's his Mom and Dad doing the nasty.
Oh God.
Now, little Johnny is confused right away because he can't understand what's going on. And his dad looks up and says, oh, your mom and I are just having fun. And little Johnny, he can't figure out how using his mother as a trampoline is any fun.
Oh God.
But he does realize that he's not going to be able to sleep. So he just turns around, goes back to his bed, and makes the best of it. The next day, Daddy's coming home from work, and Johnny's in front of the television watching television, but no Johnny. And the house is really quiet. So Dad is a little bit worried about what's going on. He walks up the stairs, and he opens Johnny's door, and there's Johnny humping his grandmother. And Dad is like, what? And little Johnny looks up and says, what? It's not so funny when it's your mom, is it?
Oh no. Did you get the switch?
No, it's not going to. It's updating. I don't know why it decided to do it right now.
Are you able to switch the camera
Yeah,
on
but
to
I
him?
gotta get him out of the way because I gotta drum.
That's why I said, so
cord
him and I'll
across,
step
so
away
yeah.
to get out of your way.
All right, whatever.
I know that it was going to be different without that extra set of hands.
Just give us a second to take a little break. Normally we have a little halftime theme thing, but it doesn't work.
master.
Yeah. How much cigarettes cost these days? 6 or 7 bucks
They
a
are
pack?
$10.72.
Thanks, everybody,
A
for
pack?
hanging out.
Yes, sir.
So we could do our little bathroom break real quick.
And I've been getting a deal by buying the same brand but an off-brand kind of, and I've been getting them for half that price. So I got 4 of them.
Killed him. Sorry,
Whenever
Al.
I change brands like that, it always screws with my sinuses and everything. I want to put them down. When I went through this last divorce, I picked them up again. And I just want to put them back down now.
Well, I'll tell you how to do that. You do what my mother did. Start smoking Chesterfield Kings. No filters.
Right. Real coffin nails.
That's why she died of
Strong
cancer.
Stuff there, boy.
I know I'm stronger than it, and I've done it before, and I'm really ready because I have a pack left, and I don't have the money for it. I can't afford it. It's a luxury I cannot afford anymore. So I'm just going to put it down. And I know the first couple of days are always brutal, and I'll just deal with it.
The first week, man.
The first 3 days is the
2
worst
weeks.
part.
The first week is them first 3 days though. Yeah, that's real tough, man.
And it's more of a mental battle than
But yeah,
anything
you can-
because
you
when
can
your
do it,
body's
man.
craving it, your mind is like, just do it. Come on, just do it. You know, it's that monkey on your back, and I can get over it.
Yeah, I cold turkey. The first time I quit smoking cigarettes was cold turkey, and then for some reason I started again. And one day I started coughing, and I said, "Fuck this stuff." So
Well, we covered the Junkman early beginnings,
I
and you
quit
went
twice.
to artist to wizard. So now let's get to the artist part. When did you feel like you were an artiste?
I am not exactly sure that it was definitely not a sudden thing. It was just something you grow into,
Well put.
And I,
He was
being in the demolition business, when you're generating tons and tons of material every day, and that stuff is sitting in a pile, you look and say, "Oh, that looks like a frog's head." And you pick it out, and you find the rest of the pieces that make the frog's head. And I was telling you earlier, there's this place out, is that Louisville Road
Yep.
Yep.
near Broadway?
Uh-huh.
There's a place called BAM Metals. That is, they have one of my big bugs. It's about 15 foot tall. It's got stainless steel wings. The wings are 6 foot tall.
Nice.
And Brian has been my scrap metal dealer for almost 40 years. He just went out on his own 8 or so years ago and started BAM Metals. But art is what you make it, The function of art, and therefore the function of the artist, is quite simply to alter the viewer's reality.
I love that.
Whether you are a painter, a sculptor, a musician, and he's good. He is really good. Watching watching his fingers do that, I'm envious. But if you're an actor or a writer, it is all about altering the viewer's reality.
That's right.
The quality of one's art is measured in the response of the audience. Do they throw rotten tomatoes at you, or do you get a standing ovation?
Right.
I've been in situations where I have actually had standing ovations when I'm doing my wizard theatrical stuff. And that's usually in schools, where I will go into schools to try to teach, well, not necessarily teach, but
Three
make
of them.
aware of kids the importance of planetary stewardship and ecological responsibility
Great.
through recycling.
Right.
So you have this combination of junkman, artist, wizard. So the wizard combines the stuff through the junkman stuff by being an artist.
Right.
And therefore I can get away with being schizophrenic. And depending on what crowd I'm hanging around with or whoever's company I am in, I can adapt accordingly.
You're right.
And I also, in the last 15 years, have transitioned into a farmer because the people who own the mustard seed markets in Akron purchased a blueberry farm near Loudonville, which is south of Worcester. So we have 14 acres of certified organic blueberries, and it's all totally a pick your own place.
Nice.
July is the best time to do it. Right now it looks like it's going to be a very good year. The rain has been really helpful with fattening the berries. So if the combination of rain and sun keeps up, it'll be another good. Last year was a banner year. We had an incredible year last year.
It seems like you're passionate about everything you do.
Well, why not? If you can't enjoy what you're doing, why are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching Alex back there, and he is having a hell of a good time.
Oh, he loves it.
Oh, yeah. He lives for it, man.
And exactly. And so whether I'm on a potter's wheel working with clay, or whether I have a torch in my hand and cutting metal or welding metal or melting metal, or if I'm on a tractor mowing grass, I'm into it.
Right. It's that artist's eye.
When you got the torch in your hand, are you surrounded by people with pitchforks and stuff on a mission?
Not generally, because I know how to adjust.
Coming for you.
I know how to adjust the torch to
Speak-
throw the flame about 4 feet.
Oh, that's what I was going
You
to say.
don't want to be near me when I have a torch.
You guys ought to, he's got a nice little staff on the other side of the camera there.
You do
He said he
woodwork.
was gonna
You do torch
feel
work.
of it.
You do.
I use anything that people throw away. I do wood. I do plastic. I make the plastics
Staff is
industry,
cool.
particularly in Akron, which is the polymer industry. I take their waste product, which are called purgings, when they're making, like say Rubbermaid is making one of their containers, and they either have to change the color or they're changing the mold.
Comes out rainbow looking or whatever.
It comes out and they just spit it on the floor, and I'll take those puddles,
All the
make
actual.
tables and chairs and
Wow.
all kinds
Repurpose
of
it.
Yeah, repurpose it. So I don't care if it's wood or metal or plastic or glass. I do stained glass. I do hot blown glass.
My mom did stained glass. She did those chandeliers and a couple of the ones, the big one in the back up there by my little stained glass stuff up there before she passed away.
Well, I learned to do stained glass back when back in the mid 70s, right when I was transitioning out of suit and tie work into scrapyard work. I also opened a yarn store in Quaker Square and sold yarn and knitting supplies and needlepoint supplies and
Upset.
stuff like that. And at the same time, the people who were putting together Quaker Square, the 4 guys who were running it weren't really up to what they were doing, so they brought in this other guy who was from Hollywood, who was supposedly some sort of a financial wizard, as it were, and they brought him in to run the place, and he was, talk about an asshole. I mean, this guy reeked of money. He loved money. And the first thing he did, he got all the people who had already signed leases at Quaker Square, got them all together in a room and said, okay, we're going to redo the leases. Now, all of a sudden, everybody has to have a certain kind of cash register because part of the lease is you have to give him 10% of the gross every year, over and above your rent. That didn't suit me well, so I'm like, I'm not going to stick around here very much longer. So then he came up with this wonderful idea. He was going to give 5,000 square feet in Quaker Square to artists. So he somehow managed to get 40 or 50 artists together for a meeting to tell them what he was willing to do and what they would have to do. So he goes through this whole painting, this wonderful picture of a gallery and workspaces and everything else.
Right.
And then he said, okay, anybody that's interested, you got to get $5,000 up front.
Money,
of
money,
Of the 40
money,
people that were
money.
there at that time, 20 of them just got up and walked out right then. But I realized that there was an opportunity. So I went about 2 blocks down the street and cut a deal with an old, out-of-business dry cleaning company, and I bought a 21,000 square foot dry cleaning factory
Nice space.
and turned it into an art space
Nice.
called the International Amalgamated Thing Makers Limited. International because we had a Canadian guy there, and we were an amalgamation of people who made things,
Creators.
and limited only by the customer's budget. You want another Eiffel Tower? If you can afford it, we'll figure out a way to build it. So one of the women who moved in had a stained glass studio. So I eventually, hanging around there enough, I learned how to do stained glass. And one day, a friend of hers came into town, and they ended up at my house up on North Hill. And he looked at a piece that I had just finished, and he said, "You need to learn how to blow glass." And I said, "Yeah, I would like to, but there's no way it's going to happen because I have yet to meet anybody that I think can do that." And he said, "Yes, you have." I said, "Yeah,
How
who?"
lost is remote.
He said, "Me." I said, "Who the hell are you?" He says, "I'm the guy that blew those pieces that you used."
Huh.
So we talked a while, and he said, "Okay, you need to come down to Penland, North Carolina to go to Penland School." And he said, he gave me a phone number and a name. He said, "Bill Brown is the director of the school. You call him and you tell him that I told you to call him, and I want you in my class." So I ended up going to Penland, North Carolina for 6 weeks. And at the time, I was married, and had I not been married with a pregnant wife, I would not have come back from North Carolina.
Liked it down here and agreed with you.
It was Valhalla.
What's up, chat room?
It was.
I'm just saying hello to the guys in the chat. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's a school
Ant
of
farm.
all kinds of arts, weavers and photographers and blacksmiths and glass blowers and potters. And the facility was started like 100 years ago.
Creative spirits.
So the only people that go there are people who are addicted to creativity. And I met so many energetic artists at that time.
That's what we've been trying to do here. We've been trying to get more artists interested in this platform so they have a space to talk.
John May, does he derive into alchemy?
Well,
What's
and
up,
you know,
Gary Black Rain?
that's interesting. That's a good question. You know anything about alchemy, sir?
Alchemy, well, the transmutation of metals, theoretically from lead into gold,
Or the person?
or something of that nature. But the transformation of metals is a very exacting and demanding science. Because if you are, take for example, stainless
That's
steel.
what this is, guys.
Yes.
Some shit I made out of some keys.
Stainless
and some other
steel
copper and shit.
consists of 3 principal ingredients: steel, nickel, and chrome.
Keep going.
And depending on the combination and the recipe that you're using,
Right.
sometimes you put more steel in than you normally would, you end up with magnetic stainless steel.
Ah,
Most people think that all stainless steel is not magnetic.
right.
That's because
That's a fallacy, huh?
the nickel and the chrome. So all metals are derived from natural minerals that come out of the earth. And the principal tool of alchemy is fire.
Right.
Melting, burning, incinerating, put enough flour and wheat and sugar and butter together, you got a loaf of bread.
That's
Baking
right.
That's
something.
alchemy.
Yep.
That's right.
That's what it is. So it's
Come on in, D.
alchemy is
There
made it.
she is.
Wizard.
Welcome.
Ah, we're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Let me
Look who
move out
just
so you
walked
can move in and get
unexpected.
comfortable.
I brought guests.
Nice.
Good. You can have a seat right here and make sure your things are working.
Okay, well, I
Should be
just
working.
came to support.
Oh,
my sweetheart.
PR, how's it going here with the...
Well, so far it seems to be going
Hi,
pretty
everyone. Glad to be back. Hi,
whoa.
Tom.
Hi there.
Hello.
How you
Oh,
doing?
am I a little too loud?
you was there for a second.
Sorry.
But I think I
Honey,
got
I'm
it.
not cute. I'm beautiful.
I said I had to give you a kiss.
In front of all these
Drop
people.
in guests.
Yes. Yes.
Hello.
I've known PR for 32 years. He is a wonderful ally and a very magical man. It's incredible how he can turn nothing into something. And I've always been impressed by that, PR. Thank you. Thank you for all you've taught me.
Well, as my
ashtray on
favorite
the
fantasy that you are, but we don't want to get into that right now.
No, it's about you. Look at all these magical coins.
I did. I
Just made the brass on Monday.
We've been talking about that.
It's all
a little
keys. I had a whole coffee can full of keys I melted down.
What a
Some of those are the
creative
ones that I
person
need
you
to
are.
fix. But
bit. So one
I
of the
thought
things, now
I-
that you're here,
Now that I'm here,
I think it would be an interesting idea if you were to explain to people the circumstances under which we met.
You read my mind, PR. You read my mind,
well,
sir.
I'm at my old store, the original store, and this truck pulls up, this giant dump truck, and it's got like letters blocked out. It says something about Jesus saving or something, and this cowboy gets out. He's got like a feather in his hat and his vest and a Bible under his arm, and he comes walking into my store, and the rest is herstory.
She's staring at me because I got a suit and tie on, and I got my Bible there. And she says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah. You have any easy wide or 1.5s?" And she
Good. See, I don't remember this. This is great. What a nice stroll down memory lane, PR. Thanks.
And she proceeded to tell me that she wasn't allowed to sell that kind of stuff. And she got her purse out and she handed me a pack.
That is not a true story. That is
Yeah,
not.
but
a
it
true
sounds good.
Story. Okay, it sounds good. Thank you. The
I don't see
the
what
lore
John-
of Dolores.
Yes. And you have been an influence in my life ever
how did
since.
that
That's how I
change?
met. That's how I met PR. Was through Dolores. Again, that community organizer.
I can no longer see the chat. It got lost because there's nobody there to scroll. So
There you-
sorry,
Oh,
guys.
do you want me to scroll?
It's over there.
Oh,
Everybody meets.
Amy
at Planet
does
Art.
IT.
Hey, that's
Right
right.
behind you.
We got an IT
The
person that showed up
laptop
on
right
set all of a
behind you.
sudden.
In the far left box is the chat.
So we got way off topic, but Dee had brought it up yesterday. She was looking for the DVD. And what was the title of that DVD that you were
Waste
in, that
not, want
movie?
not.
That's right.
The Grizzled Wizard of Waste Not, Want
Right.
Not.
That's right. Beautiful segue.
And actually, if you could, it's on
YouTube.
YouTube.
If you Googled it on
so I can
YouTube, I'm
read.
sure you would
Well,
find it.
there's two things on the computer about PR.
Audio was cutting.
If you Google PR Miller, you'll see a whole bunch of garbage that you don't need to know about. It's all the bad stories about what a criminal I am.
I saw a lot of photos, black and white photos,
Yeah.
just various photos.
And
Whenever
then
I
there's
Googled it.
another site called prmiller.me, and
I'm
that
not sure
movie
how to do
has
it.
been posted on that site somewhere. I can't get it because I don't do computers.
I'm horrible
One
with
would-
that technology.
One
too.
would think that a
beside it,
grizzled
like
wizard
yeah,
would
like
be
right
hip to
somewhere in
technology.
there.
One would think.
The Grizzled Wizard.
Yeah, no.
I am not going to give
No
up my
worries if you
brain
can't figure it
function
out.
to a machine.
I haven't, but I still utilize it.
What, your brain or the
Face
machine?
off.
Yes, both of them.
We were just discussing alchemy whenever you were
Oh,
interesting.
shall we go on?
Yes, absolutely.
Pardon my
That was kind of
interruption.
interesting, no, because he was just discussing about how it was the, transmuting, the lead to gold.
Might be able to.
And then there's the mental alchemy of the person, trying to, striving for enlightenment. Kind of the same.
Okay.
Okay, that's different. Whoa!
Whoa, whoa, there we go.
Hey,
That
what are you doing
there
to me?
you go, Amy. You got it.
There we go.
We've got Amy on the controls.
And I can't see the chat room, PR. If you see any questions that are directed to you or us and you want to respond, feel free. That's what we always tell the guests because we never know who's tuning in.
I should read it here.
Yeah, that's the chat room. Yep.
Great as always.
There we go. She just extended it so we can see further now. That's nice. Cool.
Well, we just dropped in during a podcast, so I mean, but we're celebrities.
Welcome
so.
to the show. Planet Art. Planet Art's in the house. What's the address again?
1524 Fulton Road.
There you go. What are those hours again?
No, it's not the John May you think it is. He's not your uncle.
It's not the uncle. It's not your uncle.
Yeah, it's
Not
not your uncle.
Yeah,
He is from North Canton, isn't he?
I don't know. I think he
John.
is
John,
actually.
where
are
John
you
is.
from North
Yeah,
Canton?
look, they're throwing it out there now. So the DVD, when they made this movie, how were you approached on that? 'Cause you s-
Well, how would I approach that? Well, what happened was very simply that I had a portfolio photographer for my artwork back in the 70s, I guess it was. And her boyfriend at the time, who is now her husband, was taking a course in videography at Akron U. And his assignment was to do a 20-minute biography of someone he didn't know. So she told him to show up at my studio, which he did.
lucky him.
Like the Oracle did
6 months later, after a total of 50 hours of filming and 1,000 hours of editing, he came up with this video, which he calls a motion portrait. And somehow some guy down in Texas got a hold of a copy of it. And he called me up on the phone. He said, P.R. Miller, this is Eric. I want to talk to you. I'm coming up to Akron in a couple of months. Can we meet for lunch? I said, yeah, we could do that. I said, call me when you're ready to come up. So we got into the restaurant, and he sat down, and he started talking about the movie. And he said, boy, we got to get you on Oprah. And I looked at him, and I said, Oprah? What? Is that some kind of a new drug I haven't
Oh my
heard
God!
about?
Yes, it is a new drug.
I had no idea. But I don't own a television. I don't watch television.
I don't either.
So I had
I
no.
have one,
I
but
don't know
I
what the
don't
hell an Oprah was. You're talking about O's. You're talking about opium or something, or who the hell knows what you're talking about? This he's from Texas. He's flying up to Texas because he wants to talk to me.
Right?
He wants to get me on Oprah. So what I'm thinking, maybe he's trying to make me a dealer or something. I don't know. So he said, no, Oprah on TV. I said, who's he? So we go on and we talk some more. I'm not really interested in doing this thing.
Right?
And he finally says, no, wait a minute. Somewhere in that video, you say that you have to preach to one person every day about recycling. I said, yeah, so? He says, if we put you on Oprah, you're going to be in front of 10 million people. I said, oh, well, that sounds like a pretty good plan to me. So I flipped instantly,
Mega reach.
Yes.
And now we all know who Oprah Winfrey is.
There you go,
I mean,
right?
you are now aware, right? So were you on Oprah?
I don't know, because when I left there, he said he had already sent the video to her.
Because I didn't know that. I didn't know you were going to be on Oprah.
Well, I didn't either.
Do you know how important that is? Do you know
never-
what a female icon and
Yes, I know all that, but I could have been born as
A woman.
beautiful woman like you are too, but that
Oh,
didn't happen
charmer.
either. So I got screwed.
The mighty oracle.
I got screwed without the use of intercourse, no less. So anyway, we were breaking up. He told me he had already sent her the thing,
they
and he said,
spit
I'll
on
be
her.
back up in a couple of months. We'll discuss the next step. I said, okay. So a couple of months later, he come up. He said, okay, we got everything in order. He said, now we got to get a book written about you. I said, who in the hell in their right mind is going to write a book about me?
None of us. It's all in the left mind.
So the guy says, well, anybody I pay, and I'm willing to pay $10,000 to have this book written. And he said, you find somebody to write the book, and I'll come up and interview him, and if we agree on a price, I'll give him $10,000 to write the book. So I called Bill Van Nostrand, who was a reporter at the Beacon Journal at the
Pencil or
time.
pen?
Ken Nostrum. I wonder if he's related to the one from Kramer from Seinfeld. Dr. Van Nostrum.
Ass man?
So anyway,
Ass man?
The ass man.
Bill and I took about 6 months to do all the, the writing and interviewing. It took him to Pennsylvania to my dad's junkyard and all different kind of stuff.
Right.
So he got the book put together, and Eric come up and took a copy of it, but I was not really very happy with it because to me it was very boring because it was just a story of my life, and it's, what the hell do I want to read a story about my life for? I've already lived it, So if you're going to sell a book, it's the first sentence or the first paragraph or the first chapter that's going to get you hooked or not.
Absolutely.
Got to grab you.
Yeah.
As a writer, when you submit your work, they only want the first 3 pages. If
Yes.
you can't get them there, they don't.
It's just like a CD, first 3
Right.
songs.
So
I mean,
I wasn't real happy with it, and I said, this isn't going to work. So one night I
CD.
decided I was going to write the first part myself.
Old school.
So I sat down at my desk and I rolled up 4 doobies,
There you
Only
go.
4?
only 4.
Let's get inspired right.
it was 4 big ones, though.
Okay.
Big old fanny.
Yeah, it was like a
really
hat.
like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big, that's the blood.
Yeah. And I started
I wasn't looking at his neck.
writing on what I call a stream of consciousness.
I love that. You said that earlier. That's great.
Would you like to hear it?
Yes. You said you'd wait till we were on the air.
Okay. I hope I can read my own writing.
Take Al down for a second. Go ahead.
The first time I met Jesus was in June of 1959 in the men's room at Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, while the choir was singing God Bless America. I knew it was him because his picture was in every church and school I'd ever been in. This, of course, was before he was made illegal. But therefore, he could be trusted to be truthful, honest, forthright, and all that good Christian stuff. So I asked him, why would God bless America and not every other country too? He smiled sadly and simply stated, God didn't invent countries. Man did. Besides that, God doesn't recognize borders. Besides, young man, America is nothing more than a giant Ponzi scheme anyway, and probably won't be around much longer, maybe 60 or 70 more years, and then will decline and fall, just like Greece, Rome, China, and all the other great empires of history, all the other greedy, violent, power-hungry empires of history. Being only 12 years old and not having yet met Richard Milhouse Nixon, I had no idea what a scheme was, much less a giant Ponzi one. So, of course, I asked, what's a Ponzi scheme? The sad smile lingered, and he answered, my dear boy, learning does not take place unless curiosity is present. You have shown curiosity. Now go find out for yourself. That's why you go to school, to learn. He vanished like the smoke from my mother's Chesterfield King cigarettes as the choir finished the anthem. And I somehow realized this night was going to be very different. After all, who could I tell? Who would believe me? A 12-year-old kid with a vivid imagination, who was prone to exaggeration, prevarication,
No way.
flights of fancy, actually met Jesus. Quite a revelation, as it were. Here was a life-changing event that I could share with no one. No one, of course, except the others. Those questionable, cretinous characters who were constantly careening in my chaotic cerebral cortex. Not only that, but the content of the short meeting was not particularly religious, but rather political. Certainly not what one would expect from such an illuminated being whose raison d'etre was largely perceived to be primarily theological. Excuse me. Thus began a lifelong quest of questioning everything and everybody.
He's blowing the dust out of this story.
Okay.
Open that book and it's like,
The grimoire.
I mean, it's rather prophetic PR because if you think about it, you said 1954, he said 60, 70 years. We're here. Of all of what Jesus was telling us
At least
was
you
coming.
paying attention. Exactly what point I'm making.
Yes.
Okay. Thus began a lifelong quest, a life of questioning everybody, everything, and everybody about everything. Why are you here? Particularly things political and religious, religiously political and politically religious.
what's going on in the chat?
What's
here? I don't
happening right now? I don't even know.
know. Shit.
I just hear
We're
everybody
talking
laughing.
about religion and now we're talking about spanking.
Okay, when
What
one,
went
Okay.
sideways? Go ahead.
Sorry, PR.
when
Right.
one ponders the enormity of these two manifestations of power and control,
Why are you looking at that like that?
What is it? It's a
One
skeleton.
is
an
left.
alien?
with an overwhelming sense of confusion and disconnection, not unlike the essence of childhood itself. Politics and religion, the two allegedly unifying forces of civilization, which when examined are shown to be the most destructive elements ever designed by mankind. So why would some 12-year-old, so confused, so curious, even stop to consider any of it? Retrospectively, to the old man as a wizard, the answer is obvious. Destiny. What am I doing here? Why am I living? And do I have a purpose for existence? How do I get into this mess to begin with? Destiny. Everyone has one, but way too many people never question it. They never question anything. They just go about their daily grind of doing what they're told, when they're told, pursuing the in God we trust almighty American dollar. They're called muggles. They come in all shapes and sizes and colors and genders and ages. They are everywhere. They are dangerous. They are dumb.
Muggles.
They are deluded. And if they don't wake up soon, we are all doomed.
So, that 12-year-old little boy and this 77-year-old man.
Boom. That's right. That's always the last question.
Yeah, I
We're
was
getting
gonna
close
say.
to the end, right? So we're coming up on the 2-hour mark, and that's always that question. And you kind of just asked it of yourself.
Yes.
Now that you're there, you're the sage.
Well,
you're
my
the
destiny
wizard.
is very quite simple. I'm a junk man, I'm an artist, and I'm a wizard. The junk man's function is to recycle. The artist's function is to alter the viewer's reality,
A different kind of recycling.
right.
and the
Old man.
The old man.
the wizard,
Wizard.
the function of a
The
wizard,
sage. The sage.
the function of a wizard is to observe the flow of energy and help direct it to its proper place, be it the light or the dark,
Right.
to the best of his or her ability.
I love that.
And there you have it.
So, what's that look like to you?
It looks like an alien head, but then it also looks like an
A butt
M&M
plug.
peanut.
Right.
Is it a butt plug?
It's
That's
an
the first
alien
thing
head,
somebody
but
else
that's-
said,
That's a
and I
pretty
laughed.
butt plug.
Show
That's
him
what
up
it
there.
looks like.
Show him.
Ugh.
Show him at the camera.
Yeah, let the camera
We were
decide.
Recycle.
Okay, so I can't quite figure out what it is.
Repurpose?
If it was this
The
way.
second
Yeah,
word
it's-
is artist.
I mean-
It's actually that
Artist
way
job
like you had it because
is
it's
to
the
alter
jawbone
viewer's
sticking up.
reality.
So
Yeah, really small.
it needs the thing cut off. But yeah, I had a friend say, yeah, it looks like one of those things you buy at Ambiance.
Stars and ambiance. Is that one of the places you shop quite often?
Well, no, that's
Tom?
what they said.
Oh, they said.
You know what this is? This is a model of Donald Trump's dick.
Let's get political.
Now, instead
Let's
of
get
brass
political.
Brass
alchemy,
penis.
wizard, instead of alchemy of taking lead into gold, can we turn the person?
RECYCLE.
Can we illumine?
Well, that's why you try to educate yourself. And the only way you're going to educate yourself is to maintain and develop a sense of curiosity. How something
dreamer.
happened, why something happened, what made it happen, what happened, when, and all of that sort of thing.
So you're saying give a shit, don't take a shit?
Well, you take a shit in the morning if you've eaten right.
That's
started
right.
it, John. You
Start
started
that
it.
day right.
But I have looked everywhere and I can't find a shit to give.
Maybe you haven't looked low enough.
Probably not.
Wizardry.
Oh my God! Look it up in your funkin' wagnalls.
If the wizard
Hey,
could
Siri,
tell
how do you
that
spell
junkyard
wizardry?
kid a piece of advice now, all these years later, with everything you've learned, what would you tell him?
That's how you spell it.
What would I tell them? Well, I think the advice I would give would be once you come up against the legal system, try to figure out how to milk it right. Because otherwise, the legal system is going to kill you. It's exactly what happened to me when I was prosecuted all those years in Canal Fulton.
What a scary
Right.
bedtime story, Daddy. Thank you.
Are we going to bed now, Doris?
Soon, but oh my God, that's
She's
like
the one that said
terrifying.
bedtime
Tell
story.
him,
I
Daddy.
mean, that's
What's
terrifying.
going on around here?
And this
Talking
woman
crazy in the
always
chat, butt plugs and daddies.
I'm
and
not even gonna
what
look at
the
that.
hell's going on here?
I'm not even. We've
So-
deviated so far.
One of the other last questions I always ask is,
Oh no,
Go ahead.
I'm terrified.
is if you could sit down and have dinner with anybody in any time period, no matter who it is, who would that person be?
Right now, it would be my mother.
Your mother?
I would want to know what she thinks of Donald Trump. And because she died of cancer from too many Chesterfield King cigarettes, I would have offered her a doobie.
Mm-hmm.
This is much better for you, Mama.
There you go. What a great son you are. She would be so proud.
I've tried, man. I've tried and tried and tried. My mom's like, no way. It's the devil's lettuce.
No way.
Put that out. You smell like a skunk,
thought it was
Eddie.
a
I'm like, that
Mexican
just means
lettuce.
it's good,
I
Ma.
I thought it was a Mexican lettuce.
Oh, look at that. Thank you, D.
That's scary.
That was a long
You
time ago.
probably-
That was the Massillon Museum show. I mean, PR has been around a long time, and he's done a lot of amazing things. And
That's right.
it's really impressive to see how he took junk and turned it into something cool.
Right.
Yeah, I've done,
A new way of looking at things.
Right.
I have been an artist in residence at Stan Hewitt for a whole year. That was a life-changing
That was
experience.
powerful. Yes.
That was a powerful show. I've been the artist in residence at Mount Union College. when
My
it was-
alma mater.
When it was
went
still
there
a
for a minute.
college. And over here at Walsh University for a semester. And I was the artist in residence at the Cleveland Botanical Garden for a short period of time. And all of these places involved my art pieces being moved onto those places. My giant flowers. I do flowers that are 20 foot tall.
Man,
Out of all kinds of weird
you
things.
selling them
Anything
to
I
the
can-
Jolly Green Giant?
Right.
What's he doing? 20-foot tall.
I mean, they're beautiful. They're big and
I
beautiful.
bet.
But I guess the bigger picture is that, we're all getting older, every single one of us. Just because you're older doesn't mean you're done.
Right.
PR's ready
Plus,
to...
so you're getting old. Where does that lead to? Death. Okay, a lot of people are afraid of dying,
Mm-hmm.
but if you look at it this way, it is the threshold into the next great
That's
adventure.
what I keep telling them.
And it might even be better than here.
I figure it's going to be the best thing that ever happens to you as a human, dying.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially the way
unless you
things
get
are
hit by a bus, I don't know about that shit or
I
something
think-
crazy like
Well,
that.
there you go,
but
Tom.
I think we have a preoccupation with that.
Well, we don't
It's
talk
not about the
it.
journey; it's about
Well,
the
We
destination,
don't talk
right?
about it here in America. We don't talk about death.
Life itself is a terminal condition, so you're not going to escape alive.
That's right.
So, make the best of while you can, discover your destiny, and live it out. That's exactly what that woman is doing, which is why
That's
I
what
am-
we're doing right now.
Yes, and you help me, I help others, they help others. It's just the way
It's a
the way of the
snowball
world,
effect,
as
yes.
it should be.
Exactly, and we don't have enough people like that.
Right.
Right.
But there are plenty of us out there, and if you're all listening,
We're all
I mean,
joining together.
Jump on, get part
Get
of
in the
the
game.
solution. Yes,
Get off
out
the
there and
bench
do
and get in the
things.
game.
Yes.
The pirate ship hasn't taken off yet. There's still plenty of
Still
room.
haven't shown them your staff though.
Oh, his staff.
Yeah, that's right. We brought.
Whoa.
Tom took a lot of time.
Okay,
to,
yeah,
Right.
his
careful
wizard
with the
staff.
Thing's cool, man.
Look how beautiful he's got a
Up there,
dragon.
there you go.
See it up there? See the dragon?
It's awesome.
It's a little
Big old piece
dusty
of
and
driftwood.
spidery, Webby. You need
I love
to
it.
get out
Yeah,
and
that's
start
part of
doing
the-
some more wizardry
part
there, my
of it,
friend.
A little bit.
Yeah, I
Some
can't
more
wait.
inspiring.
I have a selection of, I've got my Sunday go to meeting sticks. I've got my walking sticks. I've got my day-to-day sticks, and
I couldn't wait to see a Sunday going to meeting stick. That'd be interesting.
well, every time I have surgery, I use a walking stick to recover with. my latest surgery, I had my knee replaced, and it didn't go very well. So
Can you bend it?
barely.
Okay, well, you're all right.
Oh, I can still walk, but I'm walking lopsided.
Do you have
and-
a swagger?
Yeah,
a what?
a swagger.
That AARP swagger.
Yes.
Counting the days to that discount.
Pimp Daddy.
Yeah, they are filling up my
So,
inbox.
Pierre, can I ask you
I'm
a
getting to that
question?
age.
No.
Voice
Certainly,
off
you can ask
screen.
me anything, as long as it has nothing to do with sex, drugs, rock and roll, politics, or religion.
That's all we've been talking about.
Oh.
I know. I've already covered those bases.
So it has nothing to do with that.
Good.
I'm interested to know what your favorite medium is to work with. Clay, metal,
Glass.
Paint,
glass,
Junk,
paint.
Skin.
latch hook,
Right now, I am
said
more
skin.
or less on
Mr.
a
Skin.
ceramic
I like working with skin.
pottery and mud.
Okay, so
Got talking to the
is
mic.
there a difference?
Oh, I'm sorry.
They didn't hear
No,
you.
it caught it.
They can
Pottery.
Kind
It wasn't as loud, but
Pottery and mud.
All right, so educate me a little bit. Is there a difference between ceramic and pottery?
Is it the price?
His kidneys.
I not that I would think would be something that is definable other than price. Ceramics, you're talking,
You like that, don't you?
old
Well, there's two. now. I
Japanese
didn't
or
see the other
Chinese
one.
ceramics
One's
that
got
are
bigger
worth
feet.
billions of dollars
Yeah.
versus a potter that, like me, that, I can sell a flower vase for $50 or $100.
I have one of those faces.
I do.
Yeah, it's right in my where I do my meditation and I sit and have
Nice.
silence. And
Damn.
I put my dried flowers in it. So
Is that something you got from me or from Dolores?
actually, you brought it to the store,
Okay.
and the same day you brought it to the store, I bought it.
I see.
So
That's the way things work.
a combination.
It's kismet.
A combination.
Okay.
But so where does something like bone china fall into that? Like, that's where I always get confused. You've got your pottery, you've got your ceramics, but
That-
then you have like
That bone
fine-
china comes from Taiwan.
From
Well, you're getting when you're talking
It's
about
England.
talking about bone china. Now you're talking
The
about
idiot.
where are we
upper
talking
crust
now?
I'm
elitists.
talking about bone china.
Okay.
You know that chick
All right.
on
There's
wrestling?
different variations.
Oh, is that her name?
Yeah.
Bone China?
Fucking
All
no.
right.
I have a bone china story.
Sure.
I'll bet you do, son.
There are,
State
you know,
sales.
if you get an advanced degree
State
in
auction.
ceramics, you are a ceramicist. Where if you teach yourself how to do a potter's wheel, then you're a potter.
So it's just semantics.
To me, it's semantics. exactly.
Back to the money, the
Tomato,
bottom
tomato.
line.
Right then.
Well, then there we have it. I'm so glad we got to crash the party.
And now you know, and knowing's half
And
the
he came
battle.
in and he got to talk about how you guys met, which is what we talked about earlier too.
Oh,
which
that
was
had to
awesome.
have been boring for the audience.
So how are things done at Planet Art?
1 week and Planet Art's going to be 32, which is so shocking.
Awesome.
to me.
Happy
That's-
birthday.
Yeah.
A week from today?
June 5th, so I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's like Thursday.
Still a place where artists are coming and people are coming to meet.
Yeah.
She got
and-
cool stuff in there, guys. Go in there and check it out.
But beyond
Down on
that,
Fulton.
it's community. It's having actual real conversations about life.
It's one of the most incredibly interesting stores in Canton.
I agree.
Easily.
Thank you, PR.
I agree.
Well, it is.
I'll see you for coffee tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I have the nuts
Put
are
some
in
sugar
the truck.
in it.
Oh, you've got your nuts in the truck.
My nuts are in the truck. Because they fell off because I smoked too much marijuana.
Oh my God, that's not so
Poor
sad
nuts.
story.
Them poor nuts.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on, PR.
That's absolutely.
I know it's not like
fun.
close
Well, I
right down the
appreciate
road.
the
Fun, fun,
opportunity to bloviate all night.
Bloviate.
And it was fun talking about a lot of that stuff, you know, because you have done a lot in your lifetime, sir. And we
Well,
went,
it's better than sitting around polishing your knob all day.
what's
sure.
next?
There we go.
What's next? Are you going to keep doing the art?
I'm just gonna go until I die. Whatever it requires, I do. Where I'm living now in Loudonville, I never in my wildest dreams thought of that.
A blueberry
It wasn't even a fantasy. It just all of a sudden one day, it's like I'm there. He bought the farm. He asked me if I would move in, and my official title is artist in residence. What that means is that I get to practice the art of mowing the fields.
Right. Well, but someone has to do that, and the blueberries can't grow without all of that. So,
Yeah.
shout out to the mustard seed in Blueberry Hill. When blueberry season comes, go down and pick your own.
Get you some.
Yeah.
Get you some, son.
That's right.
July. Okay.
It's going to be a good year this year, I'm pretty sure. We got 11 beehives in this year. And
Because
those
that's what it
girls-
takes to pollinate.
And those girls are out there every day going crazy.
We want to thank everybody for tuning in. And we would never, ever ask
Never would we say to like, share, subscribe,
or hit that stupid
and
bell.
do the thing.
But go back and watch it and then do it.
Ciao.
Peace. Peace.
All right, guys. Want to hit that stop streaming on the blue on the right? We got actually somebody sitting there.
I know, right? Somebody
says
just
controls
wandered into the
down at
text
the
spot.
bottom.
I think she's hired,
No, I think
Amy.
it's on the
I don't know
screen.
though.
Huh?
I think he means on the screen.
Yeah, we're nope. It's all the way to the right.
You're getting warm. You're getting warm.
On
You're
the
getting
bottom.
warm. Oh, you're
It's
cold.
blue and it says
See it on
stop
the screen?
streaming.
Outhouse podcast.
There you go. Hit that button. See you, everybody.